So thank you all for coming. We're just delighted to have this kind of a turnout. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Antoinette Dean of Libraries. And what we're here to acknowledge is some really creative engagement of our students from Westphal in a project that we did. But we're also here to welcome you. I suspect many of you haven't been in this space. It's still relatively new. Someone said it still smells new. Our Learning Terrace. Essentially, it's a space that we are experimenting with as a way of embedding the libraries where our users are, and this one was particularly geared for students in the heart of the dorm country, so making it easier for you to come. It's a place where it's starting to echo the notion of transforming the library to a learning enterprise. It's one extension of that. We wanted to create an environment, which we are still learning about and developing, that the learner can take ownership of and make their own, as they would their own experience and their plan of how they're going to learn. So librarians will be come here along with other partners, from tutors, from the Writing Center, your faculty, some of the other experts that are involved, intentionally also to help you with some particular group. You've got a study group that's working on a project, let us know and we can try to assemble something. But normally, everything else here except for this hub is movable, it's flexible, and it's intended for those of you who need to come, who want to come here during the hours that we're open, to move it around, to make it convenient for whatever kind of study you want to do, whether it's by yourself at a small table, whether it's in a group, whether you want to move some of these writing boards together. That whole wall behind the screen, you can write anywhere on it and erase it. It's basically a whiteboard surface, and we have these things happen. When we first opened it in June, I was a little concerned that, well, people know what to do with it. Do we have to give orientations? No problem. 2 days later, I came here on a Sunday afternoon, and it was like, who gave you guys a script? You were doing exactly what we were hoping you'd do. So I have no fear in you're taking advantage of it. So one of the things that we felt, and all the furniture and interior design came from Herman Miller, who was one of the leading sort of developers of furniture for learning environments. And the one thing that is stable is this hub. We're calling it a hub. It's something we want to replicate in different spaces around campus as that place to converge for consultation, for a little bit more intimate kind of discussions. And if you look at it, it gives 3 stations. We have these screens that can move, and if you bring them together, it creates sort of a little cocoon, a little more private space, if you will, for a group to talk about, or you can move it back and be very open. As you notice, they're pretty dull. They're white. And so that gave us an idea. We want something to help brand these, to make this a little bit more interesting. And so that started generating this idea that eventually leads us to what we're doing today. So in the summer, began to work with some of Gail Holmes from our Campus Interior Designs and some of the Library Advisory Committee members, including one of your faculty, Deborah Rubin. We're thinking, can somebody engage the students to help us think about how would you want to brand this? What would you want to put on it? Make it a little bit more, not only decorative, but give a different kind of a message. And so that led us to Susie Yoshinaga and her typography class. And I think most of you are part of that. We said, well, is this a project that would be of interest? And in a moment, I'll turn it over to Sushi and let her explain a little bit that experience and engage them with it. But essentially, we ran this very loosely as, give us some ideas, and we'll pick one, and we really will use it. And so we were delighted, and one of the things you asked us for was, well, I work with letters, so give us some words. What words would help you? Well, it happened without words. All right, well, that's our business. And last summer, we had this whole thing. We asked people, just give us words about the library, associated library. So we gave her some of those. But then we thought, this is a learning environment. And the university has a set of student learning priorities, which have some nice, key, snazzy words like information literacy, communications, ethics. So we gave her those. We said, see what you can do with that, because that, in a way, helps define what a learning environment is. And you guys went to town, and it was really amazing. And so she'll talk a little bit about the process, but at the end of the term, we had over 100 designs, blew us away in the library. And we put them up here at the last week of exams, and we invited your peers, your colleagues, other people who occupied this space to give us comments, and they did. And so we incorporated those, and then we had Judgment Day, and boy was it hard. So Sushi and Julia Colton, who's also faculty working on the project, and some of the library administrators, Beth Tenhave and John Wiggins and I, we came together and we looked at them and we did our voting, and we did the hard task of narrowing it down. We'd love to use all of them, but we could only have a few. So in a moment, we will honor the winners of this sort of competition, and in the next few months, we're working with Herman Miller then to have them printed, or I'm not sure what the process will be, so that they will be part of this space. So just, you want to talk a little bit about the class and the learning experiences up?
And then we'll show them
afterwards. We'll show the images.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank you for this wonderful opportunities for all my students, and they, you have to realize they are sophomore class, first typography class in the major. But when we originally spoke, it was supposed to be for type 2 students, meaning this term. So this is really fresh for them, and I was a bit nervous. So I particularly want to thank you for trusting us to take this new venture. And I was really proud of all my students that they were so eager and worked very hard. And the results were so good that I had to change the content to my course for this term. So that, which, I'm really thanking you for that. And so rather than me sort of speaking the process, the process really took all your words, wishes, and we started to make compositions, and each student had some sort of a visual concept. If it's global thinking, they might take the image of the map, and then sort of lay the type, sort of giving the feeling of the world's map. Or one had an idea of motherboards, more of a technical digital sort of realm. Then the type resembled the feeling of such a device. So there were a lot of different designs, as you remember. Looking at it, but I wanted to sort of turn my question to some of my students, ask, let's say, why don't you come over, like Holly, Lauren? I want to know what your experience was working in a real project.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I thought it was a really nice opportunity to, it was really open-ended, so we got to be really creative with the list of words that we were given and kind of just go any direction we wanted. One of the challenging things was keeping in mind the final product. So we were working on computer screens and our projects were small, but then we had to keep in mind who would be sitting in front of them, how big it would be, what the atmosphere would be like. So.
Lauren?
The best part about working on this was that we had a real client and something to work towards that instead of just having homework that we usually just have. And something challenging was, I agree with you that we had to see the final product in the end, knowing what that would look like in such a unique form.
I think the best part was doing something that wasn't really required for class, like it wasn't a class assignment. So we were able to put our creativity, in outside assignments instead of just doing what we do in class, like quality instruction, like
Specific.
Yes, yeah, doing specific things. Like we had more freedom, and it was just like an actual freelancing job. That's all that was.
What about workload? Michael, William, what did you think? It was busy, wasn't it? But the best part was, it was really busy. I kept them extremely busy, but you kept your smile pretty well, rather than complain. So that was, for me, the joy to see. They really demonstrated their talent and ability beyond something that I normally experience with sophomore first type class. So I even had that extra benefit, which is wonderful. So thank you very much.
That's definitely a pleasure. And I also, Ellen, you deserve a thanks too, because I remember throwing this idea at you, Dean Sabinson, and appreciate your coming too. And you sort of said, you were supportive, but you were very diplomatically
Well, we should
neutral.
tip our hat to Jody Graff, who runs the program and creates a program that's interested in these kind of engagements, and we thank you for the opportunity.
It was a great way for us to engage with the students in a different way than just trying to teach you how to find a citation. So thank you all. But when we do thank you all, because it was truly exciting. I think one of the comments that you made, which was touching to me, is that someone had commented that even though you might not be the winner, it was great to feel that you were part of this. So exactly, that was fun to see that happen. But we do get to honor 5 people who we've selected. And, Jenny, who's been behind a lot of this registration. The slides we were showing at the beginning, we'll come back to them at the end, were just some about the process and places we work. But we want to feature, it's sort of like the Golden Globes. You come forward now, we'll show your work. And we just have a letter of thanks for you, as we thought would be useful. So I don't know, did Jermaine Barsabal come? Jermaine. Thank you very much. We need to get nice photos of each of these young people. Stay on up here. Do you want to say anything about your project? And don't thank everybody in your family.
I had a great time working on it. Julie, who is my typography teacher, she helped me a lot with trying to see like what would work best in the space. And how I came up with this was I was inspired by the carpet, actually. So that's how I came up with my design.
Well, we make it. We'll have it on one of these in a few minutes. Thanks again. Did Seth Fowler make it? We weren't sure which of the students would make it. No? But let us at least show Seth's. Yes, this was one that captivated a number of us. Later on, if you look closer at it, you have the individual words just woven into this very intricate texture of the tree and with shading and all. So we sort of imagine it perhaps as a focal point, even for coming up with the idea of tree of knowledge. So we'll be sure to pass this along. Lauren Poole. Lauren. About your design.
My design, I picked 4 words, and then I was really inspired by textures and grays, and I tried to work those into my design as much as possible.
So, you pick your word first. Thanks again. Sohar Kadir stopped by earlier, but being a true student, she said, I've got a class of 5, so I have to leave. So we thanked her earlier, but for you to enjoy and again, if you look closer, she's using a number of the words in sort of a circular kind of thing.
Based on the map.
Based on the mappings of this. So again, a very interesting work. And finally, Danielle Rowan, who also wasn't able to make it today. And you can see her design as well. So you can see quite a variety, and if you can imagine, this is just the tip of them. There are really a huge number, very interesting creativity. So again, thanks to you all. A toast to you. Please help yourself, little freshmen, and we'll come up with yet something else, I'm sure, to do this again.
Are you having more locations, hopefully? In the
So many. We have one of these that's a little bigger in the Drexel 1 Plaza. Trying to figure out what the destination of that will be, and I'm sure we'll do that. We're supposed to have one in the integrated science lab up on one of the mezzanine levels where the graduate students already converge again, so how we can come there. We're talking briefly with some in a space, Beth, help me with Beth, sorry. That space for the engineering group study room in the building there that may or may not materialize. And in your new space, if you would like to try to, we're putting this out too as a possible fundraiser. You know, if we get somebody who pays for one of these, not that much.
We have so many to choose.
And you know, somebody's thinking these will be replaced. Well, you know, we won't do it every year, but it's not going to last forever. So we'll come up with some other possibilities. So again, I thank both of you really for taking the lead, and all of you for participating in this. So many thanks again.